English. Today I'm going to share some information about how to build a house of memories. And this has been a journey for myself and my family for many years. And somehow this will continue, I hope, on the screen. But the journey began long before I was involved in this movement, and it was the result of the passion that actually my grandmothers, both of them, one was Italian and the other one was Canadian, who their desire to leave our family with the legacy of the stories from the past. And so we started on a journey that involved 5 steps to create something for all of the children of the future generations of my family, and we've turned this into a short course that we can offer to other people. So we started by deciding what our focus was for the collection of stories that we wanted. On my Italian side of the family, we had long history from a family mostly in Friuli, but not so much documentation. So some photos and some history stories, but they were quite poor and they ended up emigrating. So we chose my father's side of the family, my paternal grandmother, this wonderful woman, who when I was 15 years old, presented me with a gift of a book that she wrote of 7 generations of our family. So we had somewhere good to start. But then we also decided that the book was a lovely story, but not all young children will read books. So we decided to start categorizing and tagging all of the information and photos that we had that she had left us. This is took a long time. It was a lot of work and almost like building a library of photos and stories shared by her, but also other people. What we then realized was that we had this book, no longer the electronic file, only the typed document. And we also had hundreds and hundreds of pictures from Belgium and England in the 1800s and 1700s that we had managed to keep, that all had to be scanned and digitalized and organized, which took many, many months of work and a lot of help from other people. Then what we did was we decided to start inviting other members of our family and our community to also share their stories. This was a very interesting experience because I started to receive documents in the mail from people I had never met who remembered my grandmother or my great-grandmother. This book was sent by a woman in England who knew my great-grandmother, and it's her recipe book from the early 1900s that I now had to determine what to do with to add to our collection. I also started to receive stories written by my cousins and my brothers from their younger years that we also had to organize into the collection that we had. So not only did we invite people, but now we realized that the efforts to build a family history and a family story take years, and they will continue across multiple generations. So my grandmother started, my uncle also started to help. I have a cousin in Australia who is also scanning, documenting stories from around the world. We use the eMemory platform as the central place where we are building this collection now of hundreds of pages of documents and photos. And last week, I was speaking with my brother's daughter. So she is 12 years old. It was her birthday. And she was writing a story. In Canada, we have in the United States, we have the Remembrance Day for the end of the war. So 11 novembre. I'm not sure if it's the same thing here in Italy. She was writing a story for a national poetry competition. And she was telling me about the poem that she was writing. And I said, did you know that your you have two great-great-grandfathers in your family. One on your father's side, he was a Canadian, Belgian, who came back to Europe from Canada during World War II. He was captured by the Nazis and spent 2 years in a camp in Germany. My family did not know where he was, but he survived. And did you also know that your great-great-grandfather, your Italian great-great-grandfather, went to Canada, came back to Italy in 1937, and spent 2 years also as a prisoner of the army, to serve the army, but also his family didn't know where he was. So now I realize that my ability to tell that simple story to this young girl had an impression on her mind and created a passion in her to also learn about what started essentially as data, which is formed into stories with context, which is shared across generations to create some knowledge, and allows this small girl perhaps to understand more about the history of the world because of the journey of our family. So I'm interested in the simple efforts of individuals within a family or community that take a lot of time amongst our busy life to create something of value that now can exist on the internet, but can have tremendous value for future generations who will be able to access information that before was hidden maybe in somebody's box in the basement of their house. But now they can see the type of bread that their great-great-great-grandmother was making on Vancouver Island in the early 1900s. So I believe that if we consciously teach generations of people to organize and share the stories that they have, we can create identities for the future generations of children, and we can use the internet to create something of incredible value. Grazie.